Should the Canadian Premier League have a CONCACAF Champions League spot? I'll give you my reasoning why they should in this video coming up. Hey guys, it's Curtis here and you're watching A.F.C. Curtis, your home for all things Canadian Premier League content. And if you're new here, maybe consider hitting that red subscribe button. Now with the UEFA Champions League tournament coming back into the swing of things here in February, I decided to think, should the Canadian Premier League fans be thinking about CONCACAF Champions League? I think they should be, because I think the Canadian Premier League should be thinking about that. Now, for those who don't know, the Champions League is pretty much a league, a competition that runs, and for at least for us here in the CONCACAF division, it runs from February to April, and it's essentially just the best of all the different nations, Division 1 leagues, the best clubs from those leagues coming into the tournament. Now, most countries have about one or two rosters or one or two qualification spots, but in this case, Mexico and the US both have about 4 qualification spots, and Canada right now currently only has 1, which is for the Canadian Championship tournament. So if you win that tournament, you get to go to the following year's CONCACAF Champions League. So for example, Toronto FC won the 2017 Canadian Championship, and therefore they got to qualify for the 2018 CONCACAF Champions League. Now you might be asking yourself, why would your club want to go and start their season approximately 2 months earlier just to play in the CONCACAF Champions League? Well, the answer to that, my friends, is money. Now, who doesn't want money? Well, these clubs will love those extra cash sums, that's for sure, because it's cash you can invest in your stadium, in your organization somehow, in your academy, and player contracts, and maybe transfer fees down the line in a couple more years when they're starting to think about possibly buying players' contracts and bringing them over to Canada. And this is all important because it's extra cash, it's extra TV revenue, it's extra ticket sales, and it's a broader exposure for the league and for the clubs in general, because now more people who maybe haven't really heard of the Canadian Premier League or have heard of it but have never seen their clubs in action, now people from other countries can see their clubs in action, and therefore will draw a bigger name to the Canadian Premier League as well as Canadian clubs and to whichever club participates in that tournament that year. Now you're probably wondering how competitive the Canadian Premier League clubs would be in that tournament if they did join in 2020. Now, I believe that our clubs could be as good as maybe the Honduras or Costa Rica clubs in 2020. I don't see us really competing too much with the MLS clubs or with the Liga MX clubs, but you never know. But I think a tournament like the CONCACAF Champions League is a great tournament to, again, take your top clubs of the Canadian Premier League and put them up against the top clubs of all these other countries, and it's a good measuring stick to see how well our development is. I mean, this is a good way competitively too to just show off your league and show how good you guys really are. I don't see us right off the bat competing with Liga MX in Mexico or with the MLS clubs joining the tournament every year, but I do feel like we could finish third behind those two countries there. I really do think that our clubs could outplay and beat clubs from Costa Rica and Honduras. It's going to take maybe a year or two to kind of get in the rhythm of things, but I really feel with our funding and our financials in Canada and the coaches and the players that want to come to Canada, I can't see no reason why we can't be competitive and be third behind maybe Mexico and the US. Now you're probably saying, hey Curtis, what about the CONCACAF League? Well, exactly, that tournament is kind of secondary to the CONCACAF Champions League. It's not as well known, it's not really as big either, and there's not as many sponsorships and funds going into that tournament as there is the Champions League. Plus, the tournament runs from about July, August to November, which is kind of the back half of the season. Therefore, the CPL clubs will be halfway done their season, and maybe their legs won't be as fresh, and they could be dealing with some injury problems. And therefore, the clubs will have a bit of a rougher time and then going through that tournament versus if they went through the CONCACAF Champions League tournament, which starts right a month or two before their season starts. Therefore, they'll be nice and fresh after a nice little winter break off season, so they should have a better chance in that tournament than the CONCACAF League. Now, of course, they should be shooting for the Champions League, because I mean, how many people, be honest with yourself, how many people actually watched the Toronto FC run in 2018 in the Champions League? I mean, everyone I know that likes soccer, who doesn't even really watch MLS soccer or CONCACAF Champions League, they all tuned in. We all tuned in. We had like viewing parties and stuff. We were watching each and every week. I mean, it was intense and it was fun to actually see a Canadian club climb the ladder of international CONCACAF type football. I mean, it was a fun run. I mean, they went through so many great clubs from Mexico just to go all the way to the finals. And yes, they didn't win the tournament, but I mean, they came second only to one of the better clubs in CONCACAF in general. So I mean, it was an epic tournament and it was fun to watch. And I think a tournament atmosphere like that, I mean, it felt like I was in Europe and we were watching a, you know, UEFA Champions League final, and our local country's club is in the Champions League final. I mean, it was huge and it was a spectacle almost to watch unfold, and it was such a dynamic story. So I think that's why the Canadian Premier League should target the Canadian or the CONCACAF Champions League, because the stories they could tell and the unity you can have in the country of Canada, just like we had last year with Toronto FC. Ultimately, the Canadian Premier League is Canada's Division 1 league, therefore they should have at least one additional spot in the CONCACAF Champions League. But let me know that down in the comment section below. Do you guys think they should have a spot in the Champions League next year, or should they be in the CONCACAF League next year, or not in any competition at all next year? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. And of course, if you want to see more content just like this, maybe consider hitting that red subscribe button. And the growth the last couple months of this channel has been fantastic. So I want to thank you guys out there who have subscribed. Now, if you haven't subscribed, please maybe consider subscribing, because I got a bunch of great content coming up for the Canadian Premier League season. I'm super excited to share with you guys. And of course, I'm also at northernstarting11.com. Each and every Tuesday, my videos upload there as well. But it's also home to a lot of great soccer podcasts for Canadians and people beyond who want to see a glimpse in the Canadian soccer game. So I highly recommend those podcasts, all in the website below, down in the description. And until next time, thank you for watching.